This here is a 92 Cadillac Coupe DeVille. This is a Coupe DeVille with a custom grille. I had this car as a four-door sedan DeVille. This was the last of the DeVilles worth having. If you got a DeVille after 1993, most of your car is going to be a disappointment. I had this car. This is 1992. The hood isn't open, but I know it so well that I can describe it for you. This car comes with a 4.9 B300 V8. One of the easiest engines to work on, one of the most powerful engines to work on. It's got port fuel injection, even though it has what appears to be a carburetor. It isn't. Those are just the throttle, not even throttle body, it's just the butterfly. And in that butterfly, in that housing, is the idle air speed control solenoid, or whatever General Motors calls it, the idle speed solenoid, and the throttle position sensor. But these have port fuel injection, at least in 1992 does. The other ones may have throttle body, but those will probably be the early ones, the 84s and 85s, right? But if you're running premium on this, you should be getting stock about a 210, 230 horsepower on this one. Like I said, this was the last DeVille that's worth having. Everything else after 1995, they went to the North Star, and that engine just became a whole series of disappointments. And then if it wasn't the engine, it was the styling. After 1994, that car didn't really look like a Cadillac. It just looked like a big boring slab of boring. But this one, you know, this is a car, if you can find it in good condition. It is front wheel drive, and it does have the 4T60E in these. But still, you can beef those up because they use the Chevy Impala as a police sedan later on in its life. So there are heavy duty components for the 4T65, which replaced the 4T60. But digital instrument cluster. I had the analog aftermarket radio. You pull out that glove box, and the access to the heater core is so easy. You would just think that's what you were supposed to do. That's the genius that GM was known for. This is a two-door. The paint is really solid for its age. Not a lot of scratches. It's got the vinyl top on it. That's an attractive look. Most of these were hard tops, or if you had a special edition, then they would give you this vinyl top, or a padded vinyl top, or a canvas top, or a type of carriage roof. You got 15-inch alloy wheels. I had the same wheels, same design. This is an air suspension in the rear. If the hood was open, I'd show you where the compressor was. Because when I had this, I replaced this rear, but I didn't want to put that expensive air shocks in there. So what I did was, this entire rear suspension is interchangeable with other GM cars of the era, but only the premium models. So you'd have had to get, if you wanted to put regular shocks in here, you would have had to get regular struts. You'd have had to get the Pontiac Bonneville SSEI, the Oldsmobile 98 Regency, or what I did was the Buick Park Avenue Ultra. And the shocks, the struts, are absolutely interchangeable with these Cadillacs. And the primary reason for doing that for me was cost. Because the air shocks for these were, I don't know, they were at the time maybe 100 plus. And those Buick shocks were about maybe no more than $60. So I know what I did. And also, these are some awesome taillights. You can get the lens paint, and you can black these out. This trunk lid is motorized, soft touch. When you pull it down. This happens a lot when you get backed up, when people back into during parking spots, everything. All you gotta do is get like a plastic knife, a plastic butter knife, put it under there and just pry it back over this piece right here. Or you could use a screwdriver, but if you use a screwdriver, you don't want to scratch anything, so wrap the tip of the screwdriver in electrical tape, and then you just put it back up here and you just pull it right back into place. They made this car from 85 to 93. But if you get one of the early ones from 85 to 87, 85 to 88, it won't have this extra extension back here. The car in 85 to 88, it was a shorter car. It ended about here, and sales were good, but it still didn't feel like a Cadillac, you know? So for 89, I believe they extended it. They gave you these fin-looking things, and I told you, sales took off. This car took off in sales. If you can find one, what should you pay for it? It depends on the condition. Because you can find them anywhere from like $300 to $3,000 based on what you need to do. Now this does not have the North Star, and it never did. So this is the reason why you'd want to have one of these. All right? And it's got a traditional Cadillac turn signals here. One of them tells you when the headlights are on. Another one tells you when you're making a turn. And the other one tells you when you apply the brake lights. And there's also another one inside that you would see from the rear view mirror. You can't see it, but it's above the third mounted brake light. It's immediately above that in the roof. When you step on the brakes, there'll be two red lights illuminating in there also. Yeah, this was a real good car, man. I sold mine when the starter failed, and then I ordered a starter off of eBay for $15 since I'm doing it in Chicago, and he gave me the top qualityest Chinesium ever. I put the starter in this car. I checked my work, started the car up, and then I went to go move it, started the car up again. That starter worked a total of 2 times before it burnt out. And after that, I sold the car, and then the guy, he thought I sold him a car with a busted engine. I said, no, man, just go down to AutoZone at the corner and get a starter, put it in, and you'll be fine. And that's exactly what he did, because when I got off of work that day, that car was gone. So he just replaced the starter, and then, but this is a good car. Very good car. This is I don't know what generation DeVille this is, but I do know the years. It's 1985 to 1993. In 85, they had they started off with a 4.5 liter V8. It's a front wheel drive. And then for 88 or 89, they made the car longer in the rear and then boosted up. The engine was still 4.5 till like 1991. Then they increased it to 4.9 displacement. By the time we got to this generation, that V8 was solid. The early ones, you're gonna have problems with them, but if it survived 30 years, you're not really gonna have problems with it. The early ones had problems because just generally speaking, when the 4.1 came out, the car that they put it in was 5,000 pounds, and it wasn't really meant to power a car that was that heavy. So, but this right here, 1992 Cadillac Coupe DeVille. Like I said, after 93, you don't want to even bother with these cars because all the bloomers off the rose.